Okay, well, yeah, we all have chores and we have to do it before we can play. There's no such thing as play before you work. So I came out and I was walking down and I saw this riding with his bike and he's got a Union Jack on it and I thought, wow, does he realize what's happening? For me, at the time, because of the state of race relations and consciousness and just our relation to the empire, colonialism and all of that, this young kid, I describe it a little bit like a Catholic kid, or a kid riding down the Catholic area with a Union Jack, you know. But anyway, he was coming down and I said, oh, wow, can I take a picture? And he was riding with his dog. Now for those who've seen that photograph, they haven't seen the other ones in the thing where he's actually got the dog running behind him and so on. They've got a few that's missing. So I got him to stand here with his bike. He just stood here and I took the photograph. And fortunately, the wind blew at the right time and the Union Jack stood up and the rest is history. It's one of my most popular photographs. And in fact, David Lammy used it in his inaugural speech when he was Minister of Culture, when he was, and it's been used all over the place, and soon to be featured in a BBC film being shot by Steve McQueen. So the boy with the flag, and for me, I was very conscious at the time, and I think if you're going to do documentary, sort your politics out first and the rest will fall in very easily. If you know why you are out there taking the photograph, the rest will fall in very easily. You can't just take the picture and sort the politics out afterwards because you miss a lot. So for example, Jeffrey Morgan loves white girl, a simple statement, but it was very profound at the time. Now when he was here, what I did when I was taking the photograph, I made sure, if you have a look at it, his head lines, the top of the horizon there is in line with his head, and also the flag as it blew, as it was again on the horizon. So the middle of the flag was in line with the horizon. And I was very conscious of all of that when I was taking the photograph. And strangely enough, that's the only one photograph I took off that, because I think the flag wouldn't fly again. So I didn't take another one. So sort your politics out before you take, not before you take the photograph, but decide where you are. You can't just go there. Okay, if you're a street photographer, then you're about, visual representation. But if you're a documentary, I think there's a little bit of political elements to it. So just try and sort that out, and it'll help you to frame, your argument much more. And one thing you have to remember, photography is writing with light. You're making a statement. Photography isn't just a click. You're making, it's writing, literally writing with light. So make sure you know what you're trying to say and what you're trying to convey. There's another important photograph I should show you, and we'll finish there. 2 minutes.
So on a walking tour with Vanley. Yes, we did. I took a photo, yes. We'll share them on. So on a walking tour with Vanley Burke in Handsworth Park. We started at Soho House Museum and we're finishing the walk here, Handsworth Park, the bandstand. It's a very, very interesting and amazing walk. I'd recommend it if you get a chance to follow Vanley's footsteps and come and recreate your walk yourself. Vanley's leading us into the bandstand at Handsworth Park. Yeah. He's got his vantage point.
The thing is, we have to walk back. If you come around, please, keep your distance, come around. Spread out. Please just stay there. Stay where you are. I want yeah. Okay. Are we all this man here in this this is where I took another very important photograph. Parish shot, Handsworth Park, 1979. And it's a massive crowd of people were here. African Liberation Day is a day when a group of people, normally Pan-Africanists, would meet to celebrate the whole idea of Africanness long before Black Lives Matter and all of that. You know, the consciousness was, there was some consciousness about, you know, us being here and the price of our existence, if you like, throughout history. So once a year it would take place in a city with a large black population. 79 was Handsworth, and there was a platform, a scaffolding platform that was built out. And to show you, these trees weren't planted. These trees were only planted when the park was renovated. The ones that you see here. But again, if you go back and have a look at the photograph and look at some of the details in the tree, for example, the Y in that tree, the shape, you will see it in some of the trees, although it probably was much smaller. So this is where I took the photograph, and there were people really all around, and in fact down there. And after taking the photograph, I went amongst the crowd and I took some photographs. That group of photographs from that body of work was used for a Radio 4 program, which is called Facing the Crowd, which I think you can still get on podcast, where we identified a number of people in the crowd and we interviewed them, and that photograph formed a radio program for them, and it's been used quite extensively. Any questions? Sorry about you guys getting wet. I hope it wasn't too bad.
Vanley.
About getting wet is drying out over a nice mug of soup.
I have a question. How
Please.
did you get into photography in the first place?
I was sent a camera while I was still living in the foothills of the Blue Mountain. Pretty well everything that you might ask me will be online somewhere, in some video or something, because I've been interviewed sometime, but I will answer. So I was still living in Jamaica. My mother was one of the Windrush generation who came here. She didn't come to stay really, she came to study, because prior to Windrush, people were from the Caribbean. Jamaica was one of Britain's, initially, was one of Britain's most important subject. Sorry, I'm trying to rush it because I'm conscious of you guys. Was one of the most important countries, and it's after developing the whole thing with Jamaica, Captain Morgan and all of that, where they supported the pirates. But then when they signed a treaty with Spain, they decided that they no longer wanted the pirates, so they started hanging the pirates to stop them doing what they, were supposed to be doing. But over a third, I think, or 2/3, check it up, of the wealth of this country came from Jamaica at that time. So people were coming here for a long time. So my mother came here in 1950s, and she sent a camera in one of the many parcels that we would have sent back to Jamaica. And being very rural in the foothills of the Blue Mountain, I describe it. I also, for those who are interested, I also did Desert Island Disc. There are quite a few bits and pieces in there as well. For those, so I describe where I lived. When you take a car, you run off the road, you jump on a donkey. When the donkey can't go anymore, I live around the corner. So it's pretty rural. So imagine a rural kid like that getting a camera. And for me, you could say the rest is history. I was quite fascinated with the whole idea of the camera and how it works. First of all, how the image got from there to there was quite fascinating for me as well. And then later on, I got into, if you like, what I can use the camera for. And that really came about when I came here. What I did is, as I said, I started. I don't need the competition. Sorry. What I did is I started my darkroom in the basement of the shop. Then I went to evening class to learn photography. And then my grandfather was here at the time as well, reluctantly came. He had a house, and then I used what was then the coal shed at the back of the house. I turned it into a dark room, and then I carried on. But interestingly, my mother wanted me to do, you know, we didn't understand photography. How do you get paid? And I still don't know how you get paid from photography. But she wanted me to do English, you know, to do engineering something. So there used to be photography at an evening class. So she came up with this brilliant idea that only mothers could wear. She wanted me to go to the to do English, and then she would go and do the photography, and then come and tell me what she did. And of course, you know, her conversation was much more interesting than mine, so I really didn't continue with the English. Photography sort of took over. Yes.
Is there anything you took a lot of photos, but is there anything you still haven't taken a photo of that you'd really like to? Apart from the boy and the flag flying and, you know,
yeah, I mean, I really never think about what I've done. For me, what I've done is not important. What I am is not important. What I do is important. So I'm always striving as photographers to take another photograph, you know, and another and another. People ask me which is my best photograph, and I would always say the next one, because I'm always hoping. What I didn't say as well, not to do with this walk, but in terms of my journey, I've also photographed in South Africa. I went there when Mandela was released in 1990. I spent 6 weeks there. I produced a set of work which is called No Time for Flowers, which was exhibited in Warsaw and various places. And I went back in 1996 when I spent 6 months. And I was one of a few photographers who were invited on a trip to go around with Madiba, who was, it was his birthday, and he was given a series of birthday party in honor of veterans of the struggle. And we produced a book, which is called Council of Elders. I don't think you can get a copy of it anymore. Then I was invited back to South Africa, where I donated a set of photographs to Museum Africa. And again, after the exhibition at the MAC, I was invited back where they organized a 5-day conference based on my work at the University of Johannesburg. And yeah, and I think if we stay here, the more I think, or someone prompts, I remember things. But yes. How much? I've heard you shout louder than that. The allotment. Oh, I've been to a few, not as many as many other people, but mine are memorable. So most of the country I've been to are in Africa. I would say perhaps about 6 or 7. It's just that you remember them because I tend to do some. I bring things back from them, I suppose.
So did you meet Nelson Mandela?
Yes, I met the man himself.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
Even today, we cannot see many women photographers, and of course not many women black photographers. So from a photographer's perspective, what should be your answer? And I am going to record it if you don't have any answer.
I don't have a problem with you recording it, providing you can hear me from there. I could stop you from recording it by talking very quiet. There have been quite a few Claudette Holmes. If you look right across, you can't see from here, Claudette Holmes. She lives just there. Maxine Walcott, I'm talking about local photographer. There are quite a few women who used to be involved in photography. And also just a couple of weeks ago, a group of young black women photographers organized an exhibition in Birmingham. No, I have to make my information. I never really was interested in photographing important people as such, because it was always a big security around them, and I never really know who to ask, or even, you know, I thought, well, if I've got to ask 2 people to get to you to take a photograph, perhaps it's not worth it. So I concentrated on the ordinary. For me, I like when the ordinary becomes the extraordinary. I mentioned Soweto Kinch earlier on. He's a local kid who used to go to a community center up there, and he started, got interested in music when he was there. He went to Oxford. I think he did history. and he's presenting jazz on Radio 3 now, amongst many other things. He's won the what's it? No, there's a big music mogul. He won the Mogul Award as well, and he's played all over the world. So for me, I like when the ordinary become extraordinary, as opposed to, you know, photographing. Simply because I mean, even when I'm here and I'm photographing the carnival, and they're going down the road on the bus, and they've got an open top bus that I want to get on to take a photograph, and they wouldn't let me on the bus. You know, I never really get invited to anywhere. I always get cash, if you like. Yeah, you just quietly, forcefully try to get what you want. And sometimes it's good when you're not invited, because, for example, the photograph of Muhammad Ali, if I was invited, I might have been in the crowd with him, but because I wasn't, I was away from the crowd, and I had a little car, and like the jacket that I threw over the barbed wire, I stood on the roof of the car to take the photograph of him. You know, so it's almost like we are not important. It's what you do with that will last longer than you. It's what you say is important, and you're saying it through the visual, in the images that you're producing. You know, wearing the clothes, and you know, I've got my shoes, I've got my Nike on, and I can't walk in the mud. You know, I mean, you won't remember the Nikes like your friends at school. You forget them after a while. You know, the young ones. You know, the teen. Yes, you will forget your friends. Yeah, you know, but what's important is what you do with the camera. Wow, what a beautiful light. I would love, I mean, do come back if you have the opportunity. This is a wonderful park to photograph in autumn. The lakes are absolutely beautiful. Again, for those who don't know, if you walk across there, there's a lake and ponds, and it's, again, wonderful. It was renovated. I think they spent £9 million on the park a few years back to do all the railing and re-landscape the park and so on. So, yeah. No more questions? Well, okay. Okay.
What role do you think your images have for the community?
You're trying to catch me out there. I think the community needs to answer that. Although they've told me that without the photographs they wouldn't be able to tell their children their history. For me, the payment is not so much, because I'm still trying to wonder how I'm going to get the next camera or film or whatever it is. But the most important thing, as I say, is what you do. You know, people tell me, you know, complimentary. I mean, for example, the woman at the chickpea, I don't know if she recognized me. I think I still had my mask on. You know, they'll hear my voice, but I get a lot of people paying, you know, great compliment, and they're aware of what I've done. I have to say that, I have to say that I have been also rewarded, not financially. I'm still waiting for that. So if you guys have deep pockets, you know, mine are waiting to be filled. We could transfer some of it. I could help you with the burden of your weight. But I was recently featured in 100 Great Britain, and amongst some of the other things. I was offered an OBE, but I refused it a few years back. I didn't see the point, really. I didn't make a song and dance of it either, because I think that's just as bad as not having it. If you don't have it and you tell everyone that you refuse it, I think, you know, what sort of, you know, it didn't seem to make sense. But yeah, I don't know what else. There are loads more, but again, like I said, there's a lot online written about me. I did have an aunt when I was very young who, she was very, I described her as the aunt from hell, really, and she introduced me to the University of Life. If she said jump, you don't ask how high, you just jumped, and I think somehow that prepared me for life. And so, importantly, if you want good photographs, get up early in the morning. You know, go out when no one else is there. Look at the world when no one else sees it. You know, because they're not seeing it when you're seeing it, then because they're not seeing it when you're seeing it, then you're able to present something that they're not familiar with. Go out in the fog. Again, I had a photograph in a food shop in Lozells, and this guy there, he said to me, about 7 of them was in the restaurant when it was closed, and I had some photographs, and they said they had a discussion for about 2 hours. They were talking about the photograph, and they said they came up with a decision as to which of my photograph was the best. And it's a photograph I took of a man walking into fog, into oblivion, really, into the fog. And we used to have fog in those days. I haven't seen anything really like that since. So, you know, just keep taking the photograph. They'll find a home. I mean, pretty well everything I do, I don't take the photograph in the hope that I'm going to put them there. For example, I had a call from a gallery in Worcester who wants to do a photograph exhibition of mine, and they saw a piece of work of mine when the exhibition was at the Icon Gallery where I used newspaper, and they said, oh, we see you use newspaper in your work. We would like you to produce the front cover and the center page for the world's oldest newspaper. You know, so the work will find a place. What you're doing is to just do it, just to keep taking. Don't take and think, well, oh, what am I going to do with that? If they're good enough, and don't sit on them, don't put them in the shoebox under the bed. I used to have exhibitions in pubs, clubs, church halls, anywhere that will have a space for an exhibition. I will have an exhibition there. You know, no one owes you anything, really. You know, you need to go out and make it for yourself. And for me, art is about doing. So keep on doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Vanley.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got it. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Well, no, I might not. The one I have is